Hi there, just a quick take on values and judginess in the INFP, with the disclaimer that you may have your own ideas of what INFPs are like and what FI and any cognitive functions look like that are different from my interpretations. So in your eyes, I may not even be an INFP. Then that's the reason why I'm coming up with this, is my own take on these things come up with some very different answers as to what the commonly held assumptions are of what INFPs look like or how they behave. So, on to values. There's this misconception, I think it's a misconception, that INFPs, with their strongly held belief and deep values, are able to rattle off the things that they believe in, like able to say, well, I'm a vegetarian because I don't believe in killing animals, and I see that diversity, equity, inclusion are important things. And yes, all of those are nice, but I think it's missing the point. Here's why. If you have an introverted judging function as your dominant function, FI or TI, this is a process that is constantly in play. It is your most active function out of the four. What that means is that values that FI were to judge are not static. There are things that are constantly being evaluated based on the input, and the primary input is extroverted intuition. So there's this constant ideation that's happening based on what's out there in the environment that triggers all sorts of other ideas, and then that's all being actively, constantly, proactively evaluated. So you can't say, what are your values, the same way that you can't go up to an INTP and say, what's your logic? What's your rationale? It doesn't make sense because it is a process. It needs an input, it needs context, it needs questions answered. And once there's sufficient information, then one can come out with a judgment and an output. So, for example, there might be an advice column that you read through that somebody needs help, dear Ann Landers. And when they go through the advice column, FI and NE might be able to have an output that says, well, based on what's here, this is what I would do, or what I'd recommend, or what I think is the most correct, the most morally correct, or however you put it. So values are a process, or at least for the INFP. If you're looking at people with set values that are static, look to someone who's got FI lower in the stack or FE lower in the stack, more likely, I think, a thinker, but has potentially very high SI and maybe TE. So that's more likely somebody who has set routines, and that means that they've set up their beliefs and they see those based on their experiential reference as being the most correct beliefs, and they're going to hold on to those, and it's going to be difficult to unseat what they believe because that's what their own experiences tell them. So that's my take on values, is that if you're looking for someone who's got static sets of values and is kind of unshakable in their faith, look toward higher SI, SJ guardian types. If you're looking for somebody who is going to do a lot of processing and ongoing processing and not come to any conclusions and not have any sort of set beliefs, but is rather fluid on this, even when you get to kind of extreme points of view that might seem reprehensible, it's like, well, let's explore this and understand the person before we can say anything definitive about if this is right or wrong. And even then, is it right or wrong for me? Then you're more likely to have an INFP on your hands. ENFPs, again, a little bit more different. FI, having NE over FI seems to want to extrovert those things and universalize them more, rather than saying this is my subjective FI, so it only applies to me. And in fact, for INFP, they would not want to push their concepts onto other people because that SE blind spot, it's like this is just my own world, my own things, and let me retreat into this. What's going on in the rest of the world is not my business. Just let me have my own autonomy to my own stuff and don't tell me what to do. Or if you do, it's going to start all sorts of new evaluation. That gets to the second point about looking at judginess, that INFPs are thought of as being some of the most judgy people out there. It's not true in an external sense, not at all. You're going to get INFPs that are afraid to tell other people, afraid's not the right word, very reticent to tell other people what to do because it's not it's the external world and that's not their wheelhouse. It's not their business. So somebody who's saying, I'm a vegetarian and you should be too, and the whole world should go vegetarian because that's the right thing to do, it's unlikely that they're an INFP. It's always possible that maybe somebody's acting uncharacteristic to type, but it is unlikely. And that is because you only know what you know. And you're aware of the subjectivity of your rulings, that what you apply is just a moral accuracy for how you should live your own life, as opposed to being able to tell other people how they should live theirs, which is unsolicited advice like that is, well, it's not exactly welcome. So there you go. 2 myths I've tried to bust. Again, if you have your own ideas of what INFPs should look like, you may have some very different ideas, in which case I would have to go back and say, well, to your definition, I'm probably not an INFP because I do not have these specific values that I can trot out in order to show them to the world. And I certainly do not go out there enforcing any of this onto other people against their will. Rather, I'm more interested in the inputs of other people's perspectives so that I can bring that in and evaluate for myself what the relevance is for me. As a bonus aside, I just say that there is the problem of what they call the ignoring function, the 5th FE ignoring function. So between that and total lack of SE, you're going to have INFPs that sort of do the RBF look, or just you see them frowning or providing what looks like social feedback, but it's not. It's looking internally, and a frown or some expression of distaste or disgust or things like that could well have nothing to do with the person that they're engaging with, but is more about their ideating and evaluating the things that you're saying for themselves. And I know that there have been plenty of times where I've made people nervous because it looks like I'm giving social feedback where what you're actually seeing is the internal thought process making its way to say, like, oh, crud, for instance, I've got to do a whole lot of reevaluation of this, or this is a new angle I hadn't thought of before, or it starts off a new thought process, and now I've got a lot of homework to do, or maybe there's a certain connection that I've made internally that leads to a thought of distaste, but it has nothing to do with the person who's speaking at hand. So that's my take, and I guess I should end with an apology that people do expect social feedback and I screw it up. And I mean to be more on autopilot and hope to get things more right. So I would hope that people listen to my words more than try to interpret body language, because I may get all that stuff wrong. I'm not good at that sort of thing. Anyway, enough from me. Hope you're well wherever you may be, and that you have a good end of the year and a good start to the new year. And, well, I hope to be in contact again soon. Bye for now.